Well, hello class. Welcome to week 5. Professor Natalie here to talk about what's in store for the week. We will now be covering job analysis and design. A quick review of where we've been in connecting the dots. We wrapped up the discussion on motivation, employee satisfaction, engagement, and retention. Phew, it's a lot. So how does that tie into the next topic of job analysis and design? Job analysis is actually on the front end of the employee life cycle, meaning we should design jobs in a way that enhances motivation and helps us recruit the best fit for the jobs. Understanding what works needs to be done and the understanding what work needs to be done and the KSAOs needed, the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other qualifications, which you'll hear this term a lot, is necessary to create job specifications, which then get rolled into job descriptions and job postings. Reviewing again how the process flows, we take the workforce profile, the job analysis, which you should read about in the text, please, and the job analysis gives us the job specifications, kind of the tasks, to create the job descriptions. We couple that information with a structure, a design of how the work will flow through the organization, and this produces reporting structures, spans of control for managers, etc. It's important to design a workflow process to meet the needs of both the organization and the individuals. The terms person-job fit and person-organizational fit are actually terms used in HR circles and on the certification exams to represent our strategic recruiting and selection efforts. Remember, the characteristics of a job can lead to employee motivation. How important our job is perceived to be, how much autonomy we have to contribute, and the feedback we receive are all elements of motivation and therefore engagement. One of the ways to organize work is in teams. Whether work is completed individually or in a team, matrixed environments depend on the company's philosophy of how best to accomplish goals. Teams are a sign of diversity, innovation, cross-company input. If these are the qualities valued by a company, then there are likely several teams working together on company-wide and business unit projects. So read more about the types of teams in Chapter 4. Job flexibility is another part of job design and contributes to the motivation and engagement. Allowing workers some latitude in the hours they work and where they work these days influences satisfaction and ultimately retention and turnover. So interwoven with job design is the analysis of jobs. What needs to be done, what's the purpose of the work, the responsibilities, and whether the work is task-based, a doer, or competency-based, managers, thought, and vision leaders. The steps in the job analysis process are spelled out nicely in the text for you. What are some actual ways or methods we use to analyze jobs? Observation is perhaps the biggest one and one that I use whenever possible. There's nothing like seeing a person in action performing a job, in my opinion. It's important, however, to couple observation with other methods in order to gather as much accurate and detailed information as possible. Sometimes you're not going to be able to see everything that a person does. This can be accomplished through worker logs, where the employee tracks what they do, interviewing, where the HR person asks questions about what the person does. I tend to like this one. Questionnaires, that's the written version of the interview, and ONET, which is a database with detailed descriptions of work tasks by occupation and industry. It's a great place to start when designing workflow and jobs. There are definitely several influences on the job analysis process. Behavioral aspects include the fact we are evaluating only the current incumbent and their ways of working. There is also a tendency in the process to inflate job titles in order to add significance, which is a motivator to the role. Remember, having someone observe you while you work can create fear. Is the company wanting to eliminate jobs or combine them? Will I end up with no work or twice as much? There are also managerial influences, as they may want to add significance or actual duties to the work being completed in the areas to buffer their own significance. In other words, the manager may want more work in their area to signify how important they are and necessary to the organization. No HR process can be evaluated without being mindful of the legal aspects. Job analysis is the key to identifying essential job functions used to comply with the ADA and also the type of duties to comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act. HR is responsible for the proper classification of jobs. Think about Uber and Lyft, exempt or non-exempt from overtime, for example, and whether the job should be regular employment or if it needs to be a contractor role. More on this when we tackle compensation systems in week 7. So, after deciding the workflow and analyzing the jobs, we use the information, the specifications, to create the job descriptions. What should be included in all job descriptions? There's actually 4 elements. The title and reporting structure is 1. A summary of what the job involves, it's significant to the organization, kind of where it fits. The tasks, also known as KSAOs from the specifications. This is also where the essential functions are identified, and the essential functions are necessary for the ADA. And then finally, disclaimers and approvals. Not all companies use approvals, but it is a best practice to know when the job was last updated, by whom, and who in the organization approved the changes. So the assignments. For the discussion this week, you will put on your HR hat as an HR director for your organization or one you're familiar with, worked for before, and determine how you will rewrite the job descriptions. How many of us have worked for an organization with out-of-date job descriptions? I raise my hand. Read through the prompts and share your strategies. There's also a written assignment in which you are to create a new organization department to improve organizational effectiveness. The Chief Operating Officer receives some assessments and needs your help. You will draw upon what you learned from recruitment, combine it with job analysis and job design, and create an organizational structure with a leader and 5 employees, along with job descriptions for at least 2 of those positions. See the assignment directions and rubric to make sure you're covering everything. Also keep your core in mind as you write up the descriptions and what you want to see for the cultural aspects that come from the competencies. So have some fun, and if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to reach out to me.